But we want to get started with our first of our 7 speeches. And our first speaker is Jonathan Sessions, who is a Comprehensive Plan Task Force member and also on the Columbia School Board. And Jonathan is going to talk about land use and growth management. Jonathan?
Tim's exactly right. We want to be respectful of your time. We're going to try to keep these brief and get you all out by midnight. Maybe 1. I'm land use, growth management. We've been spending a lot of time on that. First, we're going to start with just some simple definitions. Land use is what you're doing with the land. It's the kind of thing that determines what kind of what you can do with it, whether it's public spaces, it determines density, things like that. And it uses all kinds of any element from zoning to subdivision controls, urban renewal, those kinds of elements. Growth management is simply using the tools to manage and control growth of Columbia. Just guide it into certain areas, slow it down in other areas, manage physical boundaries and other aspects like that. When we look at Columbia, Columbia is about 65 square miles, which is the size of Columbia or St. Louis proper when you think about that. And it's St. Louis City, not St. Louis as we all think of it. And the metro planning area is about 180 square miles, which is obviously much larger, and you can see that divvied up there. When we think about our annexation history, we've grown quite a bit, about 8 square miles since 2000, but it's been very disjointed. Before that, it was very continuous and compact. We grew very smoothly. You can see the dates just by color up there. Nice round rings, and it's become very disjointed over the past 10 years, 11 years now. When we look at what that land use breakdown is, about half of it's low density residential, so there's a lot of residential sprawl in Columbia when you think of it from that perspective. And agriculture makes up about another quarter of it, and then industrial, office, and commercial make up another quarter of it. When we look at our development patterns, again, a lot of it single-family dwellings. But we have a lot of standard patterns. You see there, and I've got my colors down here. All that yellow, all that kind of yellow beige-ish, it probably looks up there. That's all our single-family dwellings. When we looked at the university-owned land, that's all blue. That's everything in blue is university property. And that doesn't follow any zoning guidelines, or they're not held to the same guidelines. Everything in dark green are our parks and public spaces, trails, things like that. All of them are along stream corridors, or many of them follow those corridors. Industrial is in purple, and we also in that purple is areas that are shovel-ready sites up towards the northeast. And everything outside of Columbia that's agriculture is in light green. When we think about obstacles to our growth on this map, in the northeast we have an active quarry. Northwest we have an active quarry. Our west we're running up along Perchie Creek. To our south we hit Rockbridge State Park, Little Bonfim Watershed, and we also have a lot of sinkholes and other physical boundary issues. And to our east, we have the Cedar Creek watershed, which doesn't drain into the city sewer system, and we also are running up against the Mark Twain National Forest. When we look at where our future areas of growth are, again, in the northeast, we have several shovel-ready industrial sites. We have new schools that will be developed in that area, one that's already constructed, one that's in process, and one that's in the planning phases right now. And we also have two major sanitary sewer extensions, and that should be in green up there, so you can see that growth. When we break into our little sessions or breakout groups later on, there's questions that we want for you. What are some development trends that you have observed, and do you feel that what we've shown up here tonight follows the same things that you've observed, and how do you feel about that growth and how it's developed over the past 10 years? With that, I'm going to move on back to Larry, right? That's correct. Excellent.
Thank you, Jonathan. Very, very good and brief. You know, as Jonathan's presentation talked about, that Columbia grew more in sprawl over the last, 10, 15, 20 years rather than the compact city it used to be. And as Jonathan said, most of the land was low-density residential, was the reasons it was annexed into the city. And as you can see, Jonathan said, we've only got really one or two directions that the city of Columbia can grow in. So that sort of limits the options of growth. One of the other things is that, it talked about you got to have a real good part of the comprehensive plan is a solid growth management strategy. So that's what we hope you all will help in the process do. Also on those that choose to go to the growth management table or move around, there's a presentation that Tim Teddy and I did for the together on planning, and I did one on managing community change. So if that's something you want to look at, talks about some of the tools and ways of managing change in a community. So we do have some other tools for you to look at.